What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Thoughts from the Toilet. And this is sort of like Thoughts from the Toilet Reborn, because I've got some new equipment, so my software's upgraded, my equipment's upgraded, which means my sound and the overall quality of the podcast should be better tenfold, really. So here's to hoping that once this recording's finished and I've edited it, then we're back in the game and in a better place. So as always, this podcast is brought to you by Home Cook and Delivered, and they are a home cooking delivery service in and around Southampton. They give you a menu every week, and their food's all freshly prepared and delivered on the day. New menu out every week. You just simply highlight the meals you want on what day, send the menu back, and then food turns up. Bam. Easy, simple, food in the mouth. So check them out on their Facebook, which is Home Cook and Delivered, or by going to their website, www.homecookanddelivered.net. So first of all, big apologies for being so absent for the past sort of maybe 2 weeks. I think it's been 2 weeks since I've done a podcast. But I've been super busy with work, because being like a full working adult, you've got to have a job and stuff to pay bills. And this podcast isn't that big just yet. It's not quite paying bills for me just yet. So I'm still punching the clock. I'm still out there making ends meet. So sometimes that gets in the way of our hobbies and what we like to do. So apologies for the time I've been away. But, I was also a bit reluctant I've had my new equipment now for a few days, and I'm a bit reluctant to do any sort of podcasting until I got my new equipment. Because I just feel like, it's better to just wait a few days, wait it out, and use my new equipment to get the better quality stuff, which you guys all deserve. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. And I hope the quality is a lot better now, and it's maybe not painful to listen to. I was at a bit of a turning point, a bit of a crossroads, and I said to my friend, what should I do? Should I erase all 7 episodes previous and go again and start again and say this is the new episode 1? Or should I just, leave episodes 1 to 7, have this episode 8, and just see what's... so people can see the progressive change. My biggest fear was somebody coming in and listening to episode 1 to 7, or maybe even just episode 1 and hearing it and thinking the quality is awful, it's painful to listen to. I'm not pursuing this. I'm not tuning back in anymore, which I didn't want. So my mindset was to erase all 7 existing episodes, have this episode as episode 1. So if a new listener comes along, then they're straight in at the deep end with the good stuff. But my friend Brim, we go a long way back. Me and Brim, he used to be our producer and engineer for when we used to be like a little like rapping group when we were young, and he was our producer and engineer. So I'd sort of trust his judgment a lot when it comes to things production wise, with audio and creativity. And you may have seen, if you follow my social medias, you may well have seen me share his stuff, and that's Adam Brimson Designs, and he's a very talented guy, real humble, down to earth, talented guy, really creative, creates all of his own original unique art, and he sells it, which is good. So if you're into that sort of thing, if you're into original unique work, check him out and hit him up for some prices. But I said to him, I texted him today and I said, look, what should I do? Do you think I should delete 7 episodes and start from scratch? Or should I leave the 7 episodes and see what happens? And his answer was simple. He didn't even take time to think about it, responded within minutes, and he said, leave them. Leave episodes 1 to 7. If people come in, 9 times out of 10 new listeners will listen to the most recent stuff and listen backwards. Which is very true, because every podcast I've ever been subscribed to or listened to, I've always gone to the most recent and listened back. So his point was very valid there, very true. And he said it's going to be really good for people who do listen, whether they start from the beginning or the most recent and go back. It's going to be good for them to see the jump in the quality and what am I looking for? look back and see the quality and the investment. So people know that I'm taking it seriously, taking their entertainment seriously. So it's a very, very valid point from Brimson, and I really appreciated his opinion on that. And what's quite cool is you guys won't actually know this, but I just had to stop the podcast because my pizza guy turned up, and I had some pizzas. And I don't like chewing into the microphone because I believe that's very rude, so I stopped and had a slice. But you're not going to know that because I'm going to edit it out. So yeah, man, big thanks to Brim for he's a very big supporter of the podcast, and always gives me sort of advice when it's needed. And we like drinking coffee together, so that's always good. So big up Brim. Another reason I was at a crossroads with it is because if you listen to from episodes 1 to 7, you'll know in a few of them that I've used some music, which is actually unlicensed, so I could get in trouble if the artist or the record label who produced certain songs were to pursue it and heard it. I could get in trouble for it. So I was a bit cautious, because what I didn't want was for me to get caught up in something like that before I sort of got anywhere with the podcast. I didn't need that. So I was at a real crossroads, and it had been weighing on my mind for a few days, but I've decided I'm going to leave episodes 1 to 7 in, just for the simple fact, as of what Brim said, people will listen and people will see the progression and the investment. So that's good. So I'm happy. I was happy to hear that, and I'm happy to just roll with it now. Speaking of podcasting, I always promote my friend Sam's podcast, Mission Mental Health, because depression and anxiety is something that affects everyone. It may not affect you directly. You may not be a sufferer of depression, anxiety, or any form of, just feeling less than. But I guarantee we all know someone who has. Maybe a family member, a friend, someone at work, someone out there in everyone's circle somehow, somewhere, has been affected by something along them lines. So it's a very important podcast to speak about, and I'm really proud of Sam for the work he does with it, because he's now been sponsored by Help for Heroes. And for those of you who don't know, Help for Heroes is like the UK's leading charity for the armed forces. So Sam, being an ex-soldier like myself, he's been doing a lot of work with Help for Heroes, and he speaks of, he talks about how leaving the army is such a big transition, and you don't get any help. Being in the army, they strip you back and they rebuild you as a machine, but what they don't program into you is how to deal with not being in the army anymore. They're so quick to build you up to be in the army that they forget to program you how to not be in the army anymore. And a lot of people struggle with that. A lot of men and women end up homeless, take their own life, just end up in real dire straits, if not the worst case scenario. So Sam's been doing some work with Help for Heroes to sort of raise awareness, and he's raising money for the great cause as well. So once again, Mission Mental Health is such a great podcast. Real great cause, so if everyone could get behind it, that would be great. You have to excuse me, I'm just drinking some cider there. I'm not really a big cider drinker usually, but this hot weather has got me a bit flustered, so I do like the fruity cider every now and then. It's refreshing. I can't drink too much of it though, it makes me a bit uncomfortable in the stomach area. It bloats me out a bit too much and gives daddy that body gas. So one or two is fine for me, then I'm done. But yeah, back to it. Mission Mental Health, great podcast. Shout out Sam Rowe, real great guy. I was out drinking with him on the weekend. Always a pleasure to be around. He's real fun guy to be out with. We had a gym night out, Next Generation Martial Arts. Yeah, they turned 6 years old, the gym. So 6 years since the gym first opened their doors. So they celebrate every year. And we all went out drinking. We had some drinks, took some shots, done some dancing. Went to a gay bar actually. Went to a place called the London Hotel in Southampton. And it's like a pub/club. And it's primarily for, the homosexual circuit, which is great because they're fun. They're so fun on a night out. And is actually nice to be around people who are out to have fun. Because in some places we went on the night out around the town, it seemed like people were out to just cause trouble. And nobody needs that. No one wants that for a night out. So it was nice, and I appreciated being somewhere where people would go in to genuinely have fun, love each other, and have a night out. As long as you weren't trying to love me too much, we were good. And it was a real good night. You know, I spent some good time with Sam. He's been dragged through it, man, recently, to be fair. He's been up and down, he's been high and low, but he's always so positive, you know, and he's just took up a new career. So he's gone from the army, he's gone from being an infantry soldier, and he's now a nurse. So, you know, he changed it really around, and what he wants to do eventually is to get out to maybe somewhere like Syria or some country which is less fortunate than what we are to have the healthcare system that we have. And he wants to go and give something back. He wants to go back out there, and he wants to try and make change. So good on Sam. He's a real great guy, and he's got a great fashion sense. You know, I could never pull his fashion sense off, but man, you know, he dresses like, you know, if you maybe covered like a blind man in glue, and you sent him through fucking Urban Outfitters, you just said to him, run at everything and don't stop, you know, and whatever you come out wearing, you wear. That's sort of Sam's fashion, but he rocks it so well. He does it really well. He's a funny guy, so please check out his podcast, Mission Mental Health. And on that night out as well, you know, I'm a bit skeptical and wary on a night out sometimes, because I don't go out drinking very often. So I've always got my guard up, especially if I'm out with Hannah. I tend to be a bit more on eggshells. And I was just watching people, and I get fascinated by people. And one of the girls we were out with, who is like she's a co-owner of the gym, I believe. She wasn't supposed to be drinking. She was the drunkest one up in there, and she's a great laugh. But she would like piss people off, but in a friendly way. So she would, like, people be walking through, and there's like a little gaggle of us somewhere, and you know, people would walk through, and she would like touch their face, or like rub their face, or sort of like maybe trip them, like, you know. If it was you on the receiving end of it, then for sure you would be angry or pissed off. But to watch someone doing it and watch people's reactions and stuff, it's hilarious. And that sort of got me thinking that everyone needs someone like that in their social circle. Everyone needs someone fun, outlandish and out there, because, you know, it could be where no one is like that and everyone is just happy to sort of sit and chill and do nothing. But you always need like the class clown to get up and make some laughs and make some atmosphere. And that was exactly what Rachel was doing. And, you know, she had everyone in fits of laughter. And her partner Alice, you know, I looked at Alice and I was sort of rolled my eyes and shook my head. And I said, is she like this everywhere she goes? She said, yeah. Once she gets a few beers inside her, she is a nightmare. And that used to be me. To be fair, when I was in the army, I've calmed down so much since leaving the army, but that would be me on the dance floor, you know, naked. And there's quite a famous story in the family of when I first met Hannah. It was coming up for her birthday, and we'd been together maybe, I'll get the fingers out, maybe 5 months at that point. And we went out for a night out in Oceana in Southampton. Actually, we started off at a restaurant. We had a nice meal, and it was the restaurant is they're real good friends of the family. So they chucked like a bottle of Sambuca on the table, and no one was drinking it. So I took it upon myself to drink it, to sort of liven the party up. And then a few of us young whippersnappers went into town, and we carried on cracking the concrete. And it got very, very late in the night. I'd got through some like jugs of Long Island iced tea, and I decided I needed to urinate. I needed to flow out. So instead of going to the toilet like a normal person, I took it upon myself to go to the middle of the packed dance floor And if you've been in Oceania in Southampton in the disco area, you know the dance floor is like a Rubik's Cube. It's all different squares, different lights, different colours. And I was stood in the middle of that dance floor on a packed Saturday night, and I urinated. I flowed out everywhere, all over the dance floor. I'm pretty sure there's some collateral damage. People may well have got caught up in it. If they did, I apologise. And then rather than men do the shake of the penis to sort of dry it off, rather than do that, I decided to go over to Hannah's sister's boyfriend, who I'd known less than 5 months really, because I hadn't met the family that long, and I wiped my my urine soaked penis all over his leg, sort of all over his jeans. So I do apologise to Luke for that, but it was always we look back on it now and it's funny, but watching Rachel the other night made me realise that was me. But it would be me with my clothes off, or me flowing out in public. So yeah, but I enjoyed that night out, and I enjoyed watching everyone, because the gym, what I like about gym nights out is everyone's so different. It's not one bunch of people. And really and truly, when you sit and look at it, the people you are out with on the night out from the gym, you may not choose to you wouldn't choose maybe to have them in your social circle on a normal day. But that's what I like about the gym. It breaks all egos, it breaks all social barriers, and everyone is just in the same boat. Everyone is equal. And I love sitting and watching people and how everyone is different, because until you stop and sit and watch people, you don't realise how individual we all really are. And it's really quite an incredible thing to sit and watch people in their, I won't say natural habitat, but some people are more comfortable out drinking than what others are. And it's interesting to see them people like blossom on a night out, and they go sort of head and shoulders above everyone else. Excuse me, I have to clear my throat there. My voice went a little bit funny there. So yeah, I really enjoyed that night out. And I look forward to more nights out with them, with the gym guys and girls. So yeah, but I haven't been training for a long time now. I think this heat's just getting to me, working long days and stuff, and being super busy. Being an adult, I don't really get time to... Well, I do get time, it's just that I just get in from work, and as soon as I sit down, I'm done. I cannot get back up. I cannot be bothered to get back up again, which is a bad mindset. I've let everything slip lately, but hey, we're allowed to do that. It is allowed, as long as we remember why we started in the first place. Do what you fucking want, bruh. But yeah, I mean, it's a shame, because Muay Thai is such an obsession of mine, and training and being healthy is such an obsession of mine. But I suppose I've just really put all my time and thought at the moment into brainstorming things for the podcast, because I really, really want to get into like stand-up comedy as well. But I'm really, really nervous about that, because A, I'm not really that funny, which is a big problem in comedy, and B, it's such a sort of niche thing to get into, and I sometimes feel like, am I too old to start doing something like that? But then I hear stories of my comedy heroes, like Joey Diaz and Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan. They started super late. Maybe not Joe Rogan, he started in his teens doing comedy, but Joey Diaz didn't step on stage till he was maybe 28, 29, and that's older than what I am now. So that sort of fills me with a little bit of hope and a little bit of confidence. But I do sort of get these ideas in my head, and I'm a very much an all or nothing type of guy. I either throw 100% and the kitchen sink at something I want to do, or I don't do it at all, which I suppose is quite relevant there with Muay Thai. When my head's in the game, I'm there. I'm teaching classes, I'm helping new guys and girls out. My mind's on the game and I'm really focused on it. But when I'm not focused on it, it's really evident, and I just don't go to class. I let all my training standards slip. But that's the one thing I wouldn't want to do with comedy, is get into it and maybe get somewhere and then, turn it off again. Because I do go through these phases. Hannah will blatantly tell you I go through these phases all the time. I've been a footballer, I've been a singer, I've been a Muay Thai fighter, and now I'm trying to be a comedian. So I'm sure she'll she'll take great pleasure in laughing at that, which is probably a good start. Trying to be a comedian is the first step in comedy, is making people laugh. So yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. I was talking to Brim about that. My go-to guy for advice. He's got his head firmly on his shoulders, and he says, go for it. He says it's inspirational the way I get these things in my head and follow it through. Go to these open mic nights and just get on the stage and do it. But I suppose for me the hard part is like writing the material. When I try and think about being funny, I'm not funny, but I've always had the sort of gift of sort of naturally making people laugh, but not knowing I'm being funny, which I suppose has sort of led me to believe maybe I could break into comedy somehow. But I've worked out my comedy value lies in telling stories, not in sort of writing stuff and scripting stuff. I'm not the best at writing things anyway. I've got a better GCSE level in Spanish than I did in English, so fucking work that one out. So I've never been really good at writing things or scripting things. I'd much rather just go off the cuff and tell a story of something which has happened to me. And I find that's funnier because it's a real life thing. When it's happened to you and you can relate to it, when you're attached to that situation, you will make it funny. So maybe there might be something there in telling, maybe going to open mic night and storytelling, just working the crowd. But I'd maybe have to go to a workshop or something to get into to comedy writing, because that's a whole different animal in itself. And I've been carrying a notepad around, making notes of things, but I find I lay there in bed at night, and that's when I come up with good bits in my head. But I don't write them down because I'm too relaxed and chilled, and if I move, I'll wake Hannah up, and it's not worth waking her up because she doesn't do well getting woke up. So I sort of say to myself, well, I'm going to remember this, and in the morning I'm going to write it down and make it into a comedy bit. And I never do. I never remember it. I had a real good bit in my head recently, and it was how I would open up a comedy set, and I was laughing to myself in bed. And then in the morning, gone. But I suppose that may be a good thing. If I'm laughing at my own joke, is it funny? There's that age-old thing where if you laugh at your own joke, it probably is not funny. So maybe that was a blessing in disguise that my brain sort of let that go. And I've been thinking a lot about my brain lately as well, because I've had one Muay Thai fight and I won that. That was at an interclub, and I won that for my weight division. So I was a bit like, I got the bug now, I really want to fight. And I've been pestering Hannah. Me and Hannah have fallen out countless times about me fighting, cutting weight, training camps and all this, and how selfish it is. But I was thinking today, I'm 27 now, and if I was to pursue anything too far into fighting, I could be 30 with, like a brain condition. Getting kicked and punched in the head weekly is probably not going to do well. And I find my memory now is not great. So maybe it is a good thing that I don't compete competitively in Muay Thai, because I could be a whole different person in the next sort of 2.5-3 years. I could have concussions, I could have brain traumas, and I know, and as soon as you start thinking that as a competitor, it's time to stop, because your opponent is not thinking like that. Your opponent is not in that mindset, so it's a bad place to be for a fighter. So maybe it's best that I leave that in the past. And plus, I like my food too much to be a fighter. I don't like going through 8-week training camps and weight cuts and all that not so fun stuff just to get in there and get beaten up or beat someone up. So maybe it's a good thing, at least with comedy, is less chance of brain trauma. Unless you pick on somebody in the crowd who doesn't appreciate that, and then you could end up with a brain trauma, because you could get a chair put round your head, which is not ideal. So yeah, man, comedy is on my list of things now to get into, because I love comedy so much. Anything that makes people happier and smile and laugh, I don't see how it can be a bad thing. I love watching comedy. I love making people laugh. I love laughing. So I think that's where the passion is. You know, when you share something with your audience that you both love, who doesn't like laughing? And I believe when you make people laugh, that is such a euphoric feeling inside your body. You know, your brain is releasing them positive endorphins, boy. And I think it's going to be such a good buzz and such a good rush to see people laughing at you. You know, not in the being bullied sort of sense, not being picked on, but because you told jokes to them people, they got the jokes, they appreciated the jokes, and they laugh with you. So that's got to be such a good feeling. So, you know, it's something I'm going to look into for sure. It's something maybe I'm going to need to be a bit more confident with, because I'm not really that confident just yet with even podcasting, and it's just me in this room right now. And that's even talking to myself, I get a little bit embarrassed. So it's quite a strange thing. Podcasting, you know, the concept of it, sat there talking to yourself, talking into a microphone in the hope that you're going to produce this and put it out and hope people might listen to you. It's a very strange concept. So I'm still not 100% confident with this yet. It will come, but you know, I hope it doesn't. I hope that doesn't come across too much in the episodes. You know, maybe in the beginning episodes, but I think now I've got this better equipment as well. I'm a bit more. You know, I trust my equipment more. And when you do that, when you haven't got to worry about what you're producing, you know, with my old equipment, I was a bit like, I need to work hard with these edits to make it sound clear, make it sound easy listening so people can listen to it. But now I feel I don't have that worry with this mic and this setup. So, you know, I think that's half the battle is believing in your equipment. And then I think once you believe in your equipment and you're comfortable with your equipment, I think your ability will then just naturally come anyway. So we'll see. Hopefully from here on we skyrocket, we all take off together. Let's make that happen. But what else has been going on? We've got a wedding tomorrow. We've got a family wedding tomorrow on a Wednesday, which is quite difficult to get off of work, but you know, it's gonna be worth it. Like, I do enjoy a good wedding. I enjoy dressing up, looking dapper, you know, and seeing family and friends that you haven't really seen for a long time, and just the social side of it, which surprises me because I'm not that much of a social person. Well, at least I don't think I'm a very social person. Hannah will preach until the cows come home that I am social, but you know, once I'm in that situation, bruh, I am social. I will talk to anyone. I will make a conversation. I'll fucking make a conversation with a wall. You know, I'll get a conversation out of them fucking breeze blocks. But because that's more for the fact I don't like awkward silences, and I have the ability to create a conversation. But you know, I don't like the idea of meeting new people. I don't like the idea of creating conversation with people I don't know. I don't like having to find common ground with someone I'm not 100% knowing just yet. A bit of a homebod like that. But I do enjoy weddings because I do enjoy seeing friends and family you don't often get to see, because that social rapport is already built. So it's half the battle really when you go to a wedding. And it's good to get dressed up, and weddings are the only time really, unless you're going on holiday, it is like socially acceptable to drink all day, you know, and from early, unless you're like an alcoholic, which then, you know, there's no real rules really with alcoholism. Not something to laugh at, but there's no rules there. I'm not laughing at people who are addicted to the alcohol. But you know, when you're lucky enough to not be addicted to something like that, and you do drink from early and all day, it's a bit of a buzz until the next day when you crash back down to reality. But I love weddings. I love seeing everyone happy. You know, I love seeing the bride and groom happy. You know, just tying the knot together and, you know, taking that step to spending the rest of their life together. Although divorce is at an all-time high, so let's not let that dampen the day tomorrow. But yeah, love a good wedding, and the weather is going to be good for it. You know, they pick real good. August is a pretty safe bet in the UK anyway, although it did rain today. But I feel for the bride. I would not want to be, in sort of 30, 35 degree heat and in that big old dress. If it's a big old dress, I don't know. I haven't seen it. I'm just assuming. But yeah, being in a big dress or, in a suit. Because I was best man for my friend Kyle. My best friend Kyle. And Kyle's still in the army now. And in fact, I'm trying to make Kyle, like, we're talking about it and negotiating things, trying to make Kyle a casual co-host for this show. He can't commit to too much because of his life, and he's away on the road all the time. But when he's home, he's expressed quite an interest, and he would like to get into this. So there might even be a casual co-host soon. Once a month maybe Kyle pops up and we have a two-man podcast going on. But I was best man for Kyle. He's my best friend, has been for many years, and I hardly see him. But what makes us best friends is that we can go. I haven't seen Kyle since maybe Christmas, but I know when I see him, nothing will have changed. No awkwardness. We're still best friends, and that's what makes us best friends. It's real low maintenance. The friendship. We don't have to see each other all the time. There was one point in time where we were inseparable, joined at the hip, where he rang me at 3:00 in the morning one time and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, it's 3 a.m. and I'm asleep." And he said, "Well, the car park next to my mum and dad's house is frozen over, so I'll come pick you up, and we'll go back to the car park and we'll just do some skids in the car." And he did. He picked me up. We went and done some skids and some donuts around the car park and stuff. Then he just dropped me home again about 4 a.m. And at that point in time, we were absolutely inseparable, joint at the hip. But, we all get older. We all get responsibility. Kyle's married with children now. I've got a fiance. I'm planning a wedding. I've got a pug. I've got a house. I've got a job. I'm a fucking adult, bruh. So Kyle, and I don't like to intrude on Kyle's time with his family. He's away so much. When he gets home, I don't want to be on his doorstep, scratching his door like a lost dog. So I keep my distance, but I know that keeping my distance from him, nothing changes, and he knows nothing changes with me either. And I was best man for his wedding, and that was in August in 2015. So I was still in the army. He wore his number one dress, which is a big blue, heavy blue tunic type thing, and the army's clothes are like wearing like potato sacks, like Hessian bags, and they're real thick. And this day was stifling. So Kyle was in his number ones, I was in my number twos, which I know number two is slang for poo, and that's quite ironic because the number twos are the colour of shit. So that's there's a little bit of irony in that. But I was in number twos, Kyle was in number one, and it was so hot. And with army dress, there's not a lot you can do to sort of casualise it, if that is a word. You can't just you can't roll sleeves up or loosen your tie off because you've got to stay pristine. But in the evening, once the formalities were done, I took my jacket off and loosened my tie, and I was still hot then. Tomorrow, ideally, I would go in a pair of shorts. But Hannah said it's socially unacceptable to wear shorts to a wedding. So I have to sort of agree with her because she's sort of like my wardrobe coordinator. And when we first got together, she basically threw my whole wardrobe out and we started again. So I have to take her advice on when it comes to fashion and what I'm going to wear. So I'm just going to wear a short sleeve shirt tomorrow because I'm not making myself too hot. Because once I get hot, I don't know about you guys, but once I get hot, I am hot for the day. I cannot cool down for love nor money. So in an attempt to keep myself cool, I'm going to wear a short sleeve shirt with trousers and a nice tie. And the theme of the wedding is orange, so I've got an orange tie. But I just hope I'm not going to look like someone who's trying to muck in with like the groom's party. But it's just, Hannah's a bridesmaid, so the simple fact is for me, she's wearing an orange dress, I'm going to wear an orange tie. Because if I've got to have photos with her, I don't want to be wearing like a pink tie and she's wearing an orange dress. Although I did see a really, really cool pug tie. I was going to buy it, but didn't really want to spend £25 on a tie. So I'll put that one back straight away. So I'm going with this orange tie, just so in photos and stuff we're matching. And I'll do, because we like to match. I think it makes you feel more of a couple when you're matching as well. So that's that. I'm going to wear a short sleeve shirt tomorrow. And I think it's going to be the first time I've worn a short sleeve shirt to anything formal. Usually I've always worn like a 3-piece suit, or at least a waistcoat or a jacket, but I've always had long sleeve shirts on. But tomorrow I outright refuse. I'm not making myself hot all day. So I'm going to keep cool. I'm going to drink loads of gin, because, you know, gin and tonic is hydrating. You hydrate as you get drunk. So that's what I'm going to do. But I really hope the weather is good. But, you know, a happy medium, good but enjoyable. Not so hot you think, oh fuck, I need to get in the shade, but not torrential downpour. You know, somewhere like around the 20-degree mark would be great. Just so it's bearable and everyone can enjoy it without, you know, I don't want to be giving like nans and uncles and aunties and cousins a hug, you know, and swapping sweat. You know, I don't want to have someone else's sweat in my shirt. You know, I'm aware that I'm going to sweat. But there's nothing worse than swapping body sweat with somebody else, especially when you can't clean up. It happens a lot at the gym. You get sweaty with someone else's sweat, and if you think your sweat in your eye hurts, wait till you get somebody else's sweat in your eye, because it's like their salt levels and content is different, and it fucks your day up. So I hope the weather stays at a reasonable place tomorrow, so we can all hug, and not have to worry about going straight to the bathroom every hug you give or receive. So, but I'm really looking forward to that. You know, we've got our nephew staying over tonight, and my sister-in-law, they're staying over, because Hannah and Kimberly are both bridesmaids, so it makes sense for them to just stay here, and I'll take them to where they need to be in the morning. We've got our nephew staying over. He's downstairs right now watching Jumanji, where I usually record the podcast down there, but you know, he takes precedence, so he's down there watching Jumanji with Robin Williams, and I'm up here in a really hot bedroom doing this podcast for you all. And we decided it would be a bit unfair for Florence, our pug, to be left at home on her own all day and evening for the wedding. So we've gone above and beyond, and we've checked her into a fucking pug hotel. And it's a hotel specifically. It's not specifically for pugs, you know, it's for all dogs. But they have their own pugs, and they specialise in pugs. So we booked her in there. I took her there yesterday for a meet and greet. You know, they have they've got their own 3 pugs, and they've got 1 pug boarding with them right now. And then with Florence there, it's going to be 5 pugs. But it's so cool. They've got, you know, like a pug ball pit, and a little pug swimming pool. So if they get hot, they can just go and cool off in the swimming pool, and they can go in the ball pit and they can play. And they've got an acre of land in the back garden. So I'm real glad we chose to put her in there. And that's called Pugaroomy. So if you live in the Southampton area or around sort of the county of Hampshire, then Pugaroomy is a good place to board your dogs overnight or for weeks at a time if you're going away. And if you're really particular about where you put your dogs when you go away, I would highly recommend Pugaroomy. They're so professional. You know, meet and greet yesterday. Florence met the dogs in like a social way sort of thing, and they all got on really well. And it's put my mind at ease now about leaving her there for the night. So Pugaroomy, they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they've got a website. You know, you search them and look them up, and I highly recommend them, especially if you've got a pug, because you know these pugs need caring for, boy, and they do it very well. So I'm looking forward to that. What I want to do now is get into some news headlines and some current affairs, but what I'm also trying to do is make a very conscious effort not to bring any negative news headlines in. Because, you know, the whole point of this podcast is to make people happy, not to bring people down with the negativity which is going on in the world. We're all very aware of the negativity which happens in the world. So if I can, I'm going to try and avoid negative headlines, but it's quite hard because a lot of it is, is fairly negative. But, I'll start you off because if you listen a couple of weeks back to episode 7, when I got back from Mallorca, I would have said about how there's so many jellyfish in the water and stuff. And it turns out the jellyfish count is so high this year because we had such a cold winter that's perfect breeding ground for baby jellyfish. And the hot spring and summer is a perfect survival ground. It's the survival temperatures for them. So there you fucking go. Even in the UK, the jellyfish count has been so high. And that's due to our cold winter and our hot summer. So that's a little jellyfish fact for you all there. And I still stand by how strange jellyfish are. I cannot get over how weird they are. When you look at them, they look like a plastic bag with fucking spaghetti hanging out the bottom. They look like your Aunt Rose went to Sainsbury's. She got some spaghetti and she put them in the carrier bag and she just fucking threw it in the river. It looks like the water's got in that bag and the spaghetti's trying to get out of the bottom. That is what jellyfish look like. I don't trust them. I don't like them. But that is why the jellyfish count is so high this year. Cold winter, warm summer. What else has been going on? There's a big this one's quite sad. There's a big crash in Bologna. I believe that's how you say it, Bologna, in Italy, where a tanker lorry carrying fuel crashed into another lorry and the fucking thing exploded. And that is my all-time worry about them fuel tankers, is it's just carrying a combustible around, you're going to have a crash at some point by law of averages, by long distance lorry driving and by driving around with high explosives, really, in a tank in a hot country where you crash into other things and all bits of metal get twisted up, sparking here, sparking there. It is going to end in catastrophe. And it did. The two lorries crashed and it exploded. It took 3 hours to extinguish, which is a crazy amount of time for them firefighters to be stood there and battling a fire. So, you got to tip your cap to our emergency services. Well, not ours, but all the emergency services across the world. Because it wasn't obviously ours fighting that fire, but all emergency services across the world, you've got to tip your cap to because they do such a great job. And I believe 2 people had died in that particular incident, and 70 were injured. So that just shows you the scale of the destruction, and it's awful, But what else is awful is these 3D plastic guns, because they're a gun, they're still a gun, but they're going to be undetectable through metal detectors and metal scanners because they're plastic. They're basically Lego, like Meccano, build your own guns. And if these gets in the hands of the wrong people, which they will, because I guarantee they already have, it's going to be carnage. But not just that, these guns haven't been tried and tested. So the first time that gun fires okay is the first time you fire it. If it's going to back up and the breech is going to block and it's going to backfire, the only time you're going to know about that is when your fucking hand is not attached to you anymore. And maybe if you're making these plastic guns and you're willing to use it, maybe you deserve to have an appendage missing like that. Maybe you deserve to lose a limb. Maybe that's me being a bit harsh there, but it's either going to go one of two ways. The bullet's either going to come out of that chamber and the barrel, and it is going to hit someone and cause destruction, or it's going to go wrong and your fucking hand or your arm is coming off. But I believe there's been I think America put like a nationwide ban on them now, which is probably a good thing. Won't stop anything though. Pretty sure there's been a global ban on heroin since fucking forever. And I know there's a lot of heroin addicts around just where I live. When I work, I find heroin needles all the time. So how's that fucking ban on heroin going? Because I'm pretty sure that's a Class A drug. So will a national ban on plastic guns work? Probably not. But at least it's being looked at. At least they're not just, putting putting it to the back of their mind and worrying about the next thing that comes along. But we'll see what happens to that. I don't think they're a good thing, because that just means someone's going to get it on an aeroplane eventually, aren't they? Or somewhere where they can do a lot of damage in a small place and no one can do anything about it because it's plastic, goes undetected. And the only time you know they have a plastic gun is when it's being pulled out and they're using it. And I hope it never comes to that. But, you know, the world we live in, you never know. Yeah, so that's that annoyed me quite a lot, that one. I read today also been flash floods in China, which is quite strange because you don't really expect somewhere like China to get involved with weather. You know, you just assume, oh, it's fucking China. They do their own thing. They've got their own weather. You know, they make everything else in China. Why can't they make the weather? And that's not a racial slur. That's not me being stereotypical saying China make things, because it's a fact. They do make a lot of things. And you just don't expect, you know, China just always sort of tick over. They just keep themselves to themselves. They don't really bother too many people, and you just don't expect to see them on the news headlines having flash floods. Although if I was going to get caught in a flash flood somewhere, I would want it to be in China, because them motherfuckers are so efficient. You know, they'll be pulling you out of the floods, and they'll be, you know, I don't know, they'll be, you know, pulling you out of the flood and making something, and that probably is a racial slur right there, because that's direct. But you know, they'll probably pull you out of that flood and they'll make you a blanket to put over you straight away. You know, so if I was going to get caught in a flash flood or a disaster anywhere, I'd want it to be China, because they are so efficient. And this might be racist a little bit again, but there's loads of them, so they can always muck in and help each other out. There's always somebody around you, bruh. I guarantee there's not a square foot in China without somebody in it. At some point, you know, there's somebody. It seems like there's someone somewhere all of the time. And you know, I'm sorry if that offends anyone and comes off as racist, but you know, I've got Chinese friends, so you know, and I'm quite in depth with sort of Thai culture and stuff. So I don't mean for that to come across as racist, although I'm well aware it may sound that way. But and being efficient is a compliment, I think. And I think it's a compliment that somebody would say, if I'm going to get in a natural disaster, I want it to be in your country because I know you'll save me. So it's probably more of a sort of backhanded compliment than it is offensive. So I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, I mean, fucking China, like, well, I just don't understand. I obviously do understand how they got flash floods, but I just didn't expect to read that in the headlines that China got flash floods. So yeah, but that's what the headlines I picked up on, because everything else is so negative. I didn't really want to bring it here because this is like a happy place for us all to come and chill out. I didn't want to bring that sort of them negative vibes down this road. So I'm going to try and keep this place, you know, like as happy as possible. Because that's the whole idea of this podcast. If you're a new listener, thank you and welcome. This podcast is designed to make you happy. You know, it is primarily meant to be a comedy podcast. I understand that it may not be funny all of the time, because some things I do talk about on here are, you know, they're quite important and quite, you know, what's the word? Like, when something's not funny. What am I fucking talking about? So some of the stuff I talk about on here is real and serious. Serious is the word I was looking for, that my brain would not let me get out. And I sometimes think my brain does that on purpose and plays tricks on me. But serious. Sometimes the content on this podcast is serious, so it can't be funny all of the time. But my plan and my aim is to make one person smile at least once throughout this podcast, and that's my fucking job done. If I can do that, I'm winning. That's the way it is. But thank you all once again for tuning in and listening and being here. And I hope my new equipment is better for you guys, and I hope it sounds better out there. I didn't know, but I'm actually on iTunes as well. So if you go on iTunes and search Thoughts from the Toilet, I'm on there. I'm on YouTube. I'm not on SoundCloud anymore because they keep pulling my content off again because of unlicensed songs. So I'm avoiding SoundCloud because they're a bit they've got some more politics going on there. So you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on iTunes. You can find me on Anchor. And there's some more platforms coming out which I'm trying to get on. But all I do is upload it to Anchor and they distribute it where they see necessary. So that's that. So, if you've got one place you listen to me on, that's great. Thank you very much. Keep listening to me. But if you're wanting to find a new platform, I am on iTunes, I am on YouTube, I am on Anchor. So you can find me there, any of them 3 places. And I'll obviously keep you all updated with any more platforms that come out. And I'm going to try and get back into the rhythm again, where adult life will let me, of doing one a week. And I am deeply sorry if you were expecting one last week and didn't get one. But I am an adult. I have responsibilities. So, but I will try and get back into the swing of it and get it all, weekly again. But it's Tuesday today, Wednesday tomorrow. I'm not sure what day you're listening to this on, but I'm recording this today on Tuesday the 7th. And I'll leave you all to it. It's nearly bedtime for everyone. It's going to be 10 o'clock by the time I get this exported and mixed down. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for supporting and following. And as always, your shares, your likes, your comments, your subscriptions are appreciated. Notifications on everywhere, so when I post new content. And I appreciate it. Let's have a good rest of the week, everyone. It's only the start. If it's not been such a good week so far, fuck it. Throw your deuces up and start again tomorrow. This world's for you. Grab your dick or whatever genitalia you have and fucking own it. So that's that. I'm going to make sure my nephew's still alive and not killed the dog or, cut the sofa up. On that note, I'm going to love you all and leave you all. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all soon.